It was just a few weeks ago that I was telling you about the two strains, the type L and type S. That was a few weeks ago. Ladies and gentlemen, there are now 8 strains of CV worldwide. And of course, it's getting stronger with the mutations. So this story came out on USA Today, March 30th, 2020. 8 strains of CV are circling the globe. Here's what clues they're giving scientists. So they're saying there's at least 8 strains that are making their way around the globe, creating a trail of death and disease that scientists are tracking by their genetic footprints. So they're saying pretty much just by looking at all 8 strands, they are still able to determine the origins of the original strain and how it behaves as it mutates. And the strains, some are strong, some are weaker. And they think that is due to all of the quarantining that's going on around the globe. So, labs around the world are turning their sequencing machines and most about the size of a desk printer to the task of rapidly sequencing the genomes of virus samples taken from people sick with CV. The information is uploaded to a website called nextstrain.org that shows how the virus is migrating and splitting into similar but new subtypes. While researchers caution they're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. The tiny differences between the virus strains suggest shelter in place orders are working in some areas, and that no one strain of the virus is more deadly than the other. They also say it doesn't appear the strains will grow more lethal as they evolve. The virus mutates so slowly that the virus strains are fundamentally very similar to each other. Charles Chu, a professor of medicine and infectious disease, University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine. The CV virus first began causing illness in China sometime between November and mid-December. Its genome is made up about 30,000 base pairs. Humans, by comparison, have more than 3 billion. So far, even the virus, most divergent strain, scientists have found only 11 base pairs changes. That makes it easy to spot new lineages as they evolve. The outbreaks are trackable. We have the ability to do sequencing almost, almost in real time to see what strains or lineages are circulating, he said. So far, most cases on the United States West Coast are linked to a strain first identified in Washington state. So, all right, and may have come from a man who had been traveling in Wuhan. So they're saying the strain that's seen on the West Coast is exactly like the one from Wuhan. Okay, which was once the epicenter back in January. It is only 3 mutations away from the original Wuhan strain, according to work done early in the outbreak by Trevor Bedford. On the East Coast, there are several strains, including one from Washington State and others that appear to have made their way from China to Europe and then to New York and beyond, Chu said. Yeah, that's from all these people traveling. New York does have one of the busiest international airports in the country. This isn't the first time scientists have scrambled to do genetic analysis of a virus in the midst of an epidemic. They did it with Ebola, Zika, and West Nile, but nobody outside the scientific community paid much attention. This is the first time that they are really paying attention this time. The maps are available on NextStrain, an online resource for scientists that use data from academic, independent, and government laboratories all over the world to visually track the genomics of SARS-CoV. It currently represents genetic sequences of strains from 36 countries on 6 continents. While the maps are fun, they can be a little dangerous, said Anderson. The trees shown the evolution of the virus are complex and it's difficult even for experts to draw conclusions from them. Remember, we're seeing a very small glimpse into the much larger pandemic. We have we have 1 million described cases right now, but maybe 1,000 genomes sequenced. So there are a lot of lineages we're missing, he said. Different symptoms, same strain. EV hits people differently, with some feeling only slightly under the weather for a day, others flat on their back, sick for 2 weeks. Wow. That is very true. I noticed that a lot here. You have some people that just feel a little bit of the symptoms, and then you have other people, they are out when they get it. There are huge differences. And about 15% are hospitalized. Currently, an estimated 1% of those infected die. The rates vary greatly by country, and experts say it's likely tied to testing rates rather than actual mortality. Chu says it appears unlikely the differences are related to the people being infected with different strains of the virus. The current virus strains are still fundamentally very similar to each other, he said. CV virus does not mutate very fast. It does so 8 to 10 times more slowly than the influenza virus, said Anderson, making its evolution rate similar to other CV, such as SARS and MERS. It's also not expected to spontaneously evolve into a form more deadly than it already is to humans. The SARS CoV is so good at transmitting itself between human hosts, said Anderson. It is under no evolutionary pressure to evolve. China analysis shows California's strict shelter in efforts appear to be working. Over half of the CV virus genomes his San Francisco based lab sequenced in the last 2 weeks are associated with travel from outside the state. Another 30% are associated with healthcare workers and families of people who have the virus. Only 20% are coming from within communities. It's not circulating widely, he said. That's fantastic news, indicating the virus has been able to gain a serious foothold because of social distancing. All right. An example was a small cluster of cases in Solano County, northeast of San Francisco. Chu's team did a genetic analysis of the virus that infected patients there and found it was most closely related to the strain from China. At the same time, his lab was sequencing a small cluster of cases in the city of Santa Clara in Silicon Valley. They discovered the patients there had the same strain as those in Solano County. Chu believes someone in that cluster had contact with a traveler who recently returned from Asia. This is probably an example of a spark that began in Santa Clara. Santa Clara may have gone to Solano County, but he said. The virus initial sequence was published on January 10th by Professor Yang Zhen Zhang at Shanghai Public Health Clinic Center. But Chu says that scientists don't know if there was just one strain circulating in China or more. It may be that they haven't sequenced many cases, or it may be for political reasons they haven't been available. It's difficult to interpret the data because we're missing all these early strains. Researchers in the United Kingdom who sequence the viruses found in travelers from Guangdong in South China found those patient strains expanded. So in that one location in China, they found that particular strain had went circulated worldwide. That could mean several of the strains we're seeing outside of China first evolved there from the original strain, or that there are multiple lines of infection. It's very hard to know, said Chu. Now, they're insisting the virus did not come from a lab. Okay. You know, I don't believe that. While there remain many questions about the trajectory of CV, one thing is broadly accepted in the scientific community: the virus was not created in a lab, but naturally evolved in an animal host. SARS-CoV, genomic, molecular structure. Think the backbone of the virus is closest to a CV found in bats. Parts of its structure also resemble a virus found in scaly anteaters. Really? According to a paper published earlier this month in the journal Nature Medicine, someone manufacturing a virus targeting people would have started with one that attacked humans, wrote the National Institute of Health Director Francis Collins in an editorial that accompanied the paper. Anderson was led. Okay, let me just go down because they're just talking about these different people in the paper. It's possible it was a single event from a single animal to a single human. So this is what they're saying. This is just a hypothesis, though. It's not like they really have solid evidence that that was the case. So they're saying that CV started from one animal and the strain jumped from one animal to human, and that's how the whole thing got started. Okay. On the East Coast, there are several strains. So they're saying that um, there are several strains, and I believe most of those strains, from what I'm seeing, are found in New York. And we know right now New York is really struggling with, the virus right now. The current virus strains are still fundamentally very similar to each other. So, and I did read that part. Let's see here. So far, researchers don't have a lot of information on the virus inside China beyond the facts that it first appeared in Wuhan sometime between mid November and mid December. Okay. So, I mean, them saying it had jumped from one animal to one human, and they're saying it, it was somewhere around Wuhan. And we know this originated in China because it didn't crop up anywhere else in the world. That was the first location. And I know these Chinese people don't like it being called the China virus or the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus. They have a problem with that. But 8 strains of this virus exist around the globe now. It's no telling how many there will be by the time we get to May or June, you know? But they're saying this is a slow mutation. It don't seem so slow to me, but I guess I'm not in the scientific world. So that's why it may seem fast to someone like me. But y'all tell me what you think. That now there are 8 strains of the virus on Earth that are circulating around the globe at this time. And there are several strains found here in the US. All I can tell you is everybody be careful. Be careful with what you do and try to, not to be on surfaces that, especially ones that you're not familiar with out there. And all we can do is our best at this point in time. There's nothing else we can do. But y'all, please be careful out there. Make sure you keep your immune system strong and wash those hands frequently. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.